Most people think staying broke is just bad luck, like you weren't born into money or you didn't get the right opportunity. But I've noticed something different. The people I know who've actually turned their lives around, whether it's someone who grew up in a small town with nothing, or even a buddy of mine who was drowning in credit card debt, they all had this one daily thing in common. And it wasn't some fancy investment or lottery ticket moment. It was embarrassingly simple. I'll be honest, when I first heard it, I rolled my eyes. But the more I practiced it, the more I realized it's almost impossible to stay poor if you do this every single day. Like, your brain literally won't let you. And I want to walk you through exactly why. 1. The power of awareness in money habits. Most people stay broke not because they don't make money, but because they don't even realize where it goes. It's like filling up a bucket with water, but the bucket has 10 little holes at the bottom. You can keep pouring water in all day long, but if you don't notice the leaks, you'll always feel like you're running dry. Money works the same way. The small daily habits, grabbing that $6 latte without thinking, signing up for 5 different subscriptions you barely use, or buying something on Amazon just because it was on sale. They feel tiny in the moment, but those tiny leaks over months and years keep people trapped. Now, here's where awareness becomes a superpower. Let's say you sit down one night and track every dollar you spent in the past week. No judgment, no shame, just awareness. You'll probably be shocked. I had a friend who swore he was living paycheck to paycheck and couldn't save a dime. When he tracked his week, he realized he'd spent almost $250 just on delivery food and gas station snacks. That blew his mind. Suddenly, it wasn't, "I don't make enough money," it was, "I'm not paying attention." That shift alone can be life-changing. Because once you see where the leaks are, you can decide which ones to patch. Think of it like this. You can't win a game if you don't even know the score. Most broke people are playing blindfolded. They don't know what's coming in and they don't know what's going out. Awareness is like taking the blindfold off. From that moment, your brain starts working differently. You begin catching yourself before you swipe the card. You start asking, "Do I really need this?" instead of, "Well, it's just a few bucks." And those small shifts, that's where the rich mindset quietly begins. 2. Daily self-education about money. Here's the truth. School doesn't teach us how to manage money. Most of us can solve for X in an algebra problem, but nobody explained what interest really does to a credit card balance or how compounding can make us rich. That's why self-education has to become a daily ritual. And I don't mean spending 3 hours a day reading textbooks or taking courses. I mean dedicating 10 to 15 minutes a day to learning something new about money, psychology, or investing. Over time, that adds up to a massive advantage. Let me give you an example. Imagine 2 people. Sarah spends 15 minutes a day listening to a podcast about finance during her commute. John listens to random gossip shows or just scrolls Instagram. After 1 year, Sarah has consumed over 90 hours of financial education without even trying. That knowledge compounds. She now understands why having an emergency fund matters, how index funds beat most investors, and why saving 20% of her income early on is life-changing. John, on the other hand, still thinks investing is too complicated and puts it off for another year. 10 years later, Sarah is financially stable and growing richer, while John is still waiting for the right time. That's the difference 15 minutes a day can make. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't see the benefit immediately, but if you skip it daily, the damage becomes obvious later. And just like dental hygiene, financial hygiene is a daily habit. If you learn just one new thing about money every day, you'll eventually know more than 95% of the population. That knowledge makes you dangerous in the best way possible. You'll spot scams, you'll recognize opportunities, and you'll avoid the traps that keep people broke. And the beauty? All this education is free. YouTube channels, audiobooks, blogs, podcasts, the world has given us access to financial wisdom our grandparents could only dream of. If you don't take advantage of it daily, you're choosing ignorance, and ignorance is expensive. 3. Consistently practicing gratitude and long-term thinking. This one sounds soft, maybe even woo-woo, but it's secretly one of the strongest daily practices to keep you from staying poor. Here's why. Most people are broke not because they don't make enough, but because they're always chasing the next shiny thing. New car, bigger TV, the upgraded iPhone. That mindset creates a never-ending loop of dissatisfaction. You always want more, which means you're always spending more. Gratitude is the antidote. When you start each day by reminding yourself of what you already have, the roof over your head, the food in your fridge, the skills you've built, you naturally feel less pressure to keep buying stuff you don't need. Now, combine gratitude with long-term thinking and you unlock a secret weapon. Instead of asking, what can I buy right now to feel good? You start asking, what can I do today that will make my life better in 5 years? That question changes everything. Imagine this. 2 people both get a $1,000 bonus at work. One blows it on a weekend trip because you only live once. The other puts it into an index fund, leaves it untouched, and 20 years later, that bonus has quietly grown into over $6,000. Gratitude helped them resist the urge to splurge, and long-term thinking gave them the patience to let the money grow. I'll share a quick personal example. A while back, I used to scroll online marketplaces whenever I was bored. I'd convince myself I deserved a new gadget or pair of sneakers. The rush of excitement was real, but it lasted maybe 2 days. Then I was back to feeling bored again. When I switched to practicing gratitude daily, something shifted. I started noticing how much I already owned that I wasn't even using. I felt calmer, less restless, and more focused on stacking money instead of burning it. Pair that with long-term goals, like imagining what life will look like if I consistently invest over the next decade, and suddenly, those small daily decisions start feeling exciting. You're no longer stuck in survival mode. You're playing the long game, and trust me, the long game is where the rich win.
4. The daily discipline of tracking one small win. Here's something I've noticed. Rich people don't always do everything perfectly, but they almost always focus on progress. And that progress isn't measured in giant leaps, it's measured in small, daily wins. The broke mindset says, if I can't save $500 this month, why bother? But the rich mindset says, even if I save $5 today, that's a win worth tracking. And when you start noticing and writing down those tiny victories, your brain shifts from frustration to momentum. Think about working out. If you only look at the scale, you'll get discouraged fast. But if you track the fact that you lifted heavier this week or ran a bit farther, you start to feel proud. That pride keeps you going. Money is no different. If you jot down, skipped takeout today, saved $20, or transferred $10 into savings, it might feel laughably small in the moment, but stack those daily wins over time and you build confidence. And confidence is magnetic. It makes you want to keep going. I had a buddy who started with literally $2 a day. That's it. Every day he'd move $2 from his checking to a separate savings account and write it down. At first it felt silly, but after a year, he had $730, more than he'd ever saved before. More importantly, he felt unstoppable because his brain was like, if I can do $2, I can do $10. Within a few years, he was maxing out a retirement account. Not because he got a crazy raise or a big inheritance, but because he built the habit of tracking tiny daily wins. That habit? It's almost impossible to stay poor when you train your brain to see proof that you're moving forward. 5. Building a daily connection with your future self. Here's a question most people never ask themselves. What would my 40-year-old self thank me for today? It sounds simple, but it's a game changer. Poor decisions usually come from only thinking about right now. Rich decisions come from thinking about later. The trick is, your future self isn't some stranger, it's literally you. And if you make a habit of connecting with that version of yourself daily, you'll naturally make smarter moves. Let's say you're 25, and you imagine your 45-year-old self. Do you want that version of you to be stressed out, living paycheck to paycheck, still worried about rent? Or do you want them relaxed, maybe even laughing at how much they've grown? Every time you choose not to blow $100 on junk, you're basically handing that future version of yourself a gift. That's a wild way to think about money. It's like you're mailing cash into the future. Here's an analogy. Imagine your future self is your best friend living in another city. Every day, you can either send them a care package or you can send them nothing. Over time, those care packages add up. Suddenly, when you meet them years later, they're living comfortably because you kept sending them love in the form of savings, investments, and discipline. That daily check-in, even if it's just taking a minute to ask, will future me thank me for this, builds a mental bridge. And when you live with that bridge in mind, poverty stops being your destiny because your daily actions are no longer random. They're connected to a bigger picture. 6. The daily energy audit. protecting your focus. Money is energy, plain and simple. And where your energy goes, your money eventually follows. One of the sneakiest reasons people stay broke isn't just about dollars and cents, it's about wasted attention. Think about how easy it is to spend hours scrolling, gossiping, or worrying about things you can't control. That mental clutter drains your focus. And when your focus is gone, opportunities slide right past you. Here's the thing, rich people guard their energy like it's treasure. They don't waste hours fighting in comment sections or binge watching shows they don't even care about. They redirect that energy into creating, learning, and building. And this doesn't mean you need to work like a robot 24/7. It means doing a daily energy audit. Ask yourself, what's stealing my focus today and what's fueling it? Then make small shifts. For example, I used to start my mornings by checking emails, scrolling headlines, and getting annoyed before I even had breakfast. My energy was already scattered. When I flipped that habit, no phone for the first 30 minutes, just water, stretching, and reviewing my goals, everything changed. I had more clarity, I was calmer, and I actually finished tasks faster. That's when I realized staying broke often starts with staying distracted. Doing a daily energy audit is like cleaning your mental windshield. Once you see clearly, you can actually drive towards your goals. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to run a marathon while carrying 5 grocery bags. You'd burn out quick. That's what poor energy habits do. They load you up with distractions and leave you too tired to chase real progress. But if you put those bags down every day, even for 20 minutes, you free up enough strength to actually run. And when you consistently direct your focus towards things that matter, your skills, your savings, your opportunities, you're stacking invisible wealth every single day.
7. Turning daily boredom into opportunity. Here's something nobody talks about. Boredom is one of the most expensive emotions in the world. Think about it. How often do people spend money just because they're bored? You're sitting at home, nothing to do, so you grab your phone, boom! 2 hours later, you've ordered takeout you didn't need and a gadget you'll forget about in a week. That little spike of dopamine cost you real money. And when boredom hits daily, those costs pile up like crazy. But here's the flip side. Boredom can be one of the richest opportunities if you train yourself to use it differently. Instead of reaching for your wallet or your phone, what if every time you felt bored, you replaced it with a small productive action? Read 3 pages of a book, write down one new idea for earning money, or even just clean a small part of your space. Those actions don't just save money, they sharpen you. I'll give you an example. A guy I know used to cure his boredom by scrolling sneaker sites. He'd buy 2 or 3 pairs a month, then complain about being broke. He finally challenged himself. Every time he felt the urge to shop out of boredom, he'd open a free stock trading app instead and read one company's financials. Within 6 months, he'd not only stopped blowing hundreds on sneakers, he'd taught himself enough about investing to actually start buying shares. What used to drain his account was now feeding it. That's the magic of boredom. It's energy waiting to be redirected. The truth? People stay poor because they confuse boredom with emptiness. They try to fill it with purchases. But if you can turn boredom into a signal, a reminder to invest in yourself, your skills, your body, or your money, you'll quietly build a life where poor just isn't part of the equation anymore. 8. Daily networking, planting seeds before you need them. Wealth isn't built in isolation. It's built on connections. And here's the catch. Most people only think about networking when they're desperate, like when they're job hunting or when their business is failing. By then, it's too late. The rich build relationships daily, long before they need them. Now, networking doesn't mean schmoozing at fancy events or collecting business cards like Pokemon. It means making small, genuine connections every single day. That could be checking in on an old colleague, leaving a thoughtful comment on someone's work, or even just sending a congrats message when you see a friend succeed. These small actions take 2 minutes, but pay compound interest over time. Here's why. Opportunities travel through people. Let's say you're building a side hustle and one day someone you casually supported on LinkedIn thinks of you for a project, or you're looking for a better job and that one person you had coffee with last year suddenly recommends you. These random breaks that rich people seem to get, they're usually the result of years of planting small networking seeds daily. I'll share a personal one.
I once sent a simple thank you email to a mentor after reading a blog post they wrote. No agenda, just gratitude. Months later, that same person introduced me to someone who helped me land a freelance project that doubled my income at the time. Was it luck? Kinda. But it was also the byproduct of a habit, building connections daily, without expecting anything back. If you make that part of your routine, staying poor becomes incredibly unlikely, because your network will eventually drag you upward. 9. Practicing daily self-control in tiny decisions. If there's one daily habit that separates the rich from the broke, it's self-control. And I don't mean willpower in the big dramatic sense, I mean the tiny, almost invisible choices you make throughout the day. Poor people often think being rich is about hitting one jackpot moment, like landing a massive client or scoring a huge raise. But rich people know it's about stacking small acts of self-control day after day. Here's the simplest way to see it. Every dollar you spend is a vote. It's either a vote for your current comfort or your future freedom. If you're constantly voting for today's impulse, your future self never gets a say. But if you learn to pause just for 10 seconds and ask, do I really need this or am I chasing a feeling? You'll start making decisions that compound in your favor. For example, I had a coworker who used to hit the vending machine twice a day. Chips, sodas, candy bars, nothing crazy, just a couple of bucks here and there. One day, he decided to test his self-control. Every time he wanted to buy something, he'd write it on a sticky note instead of actually buying it. After 2 months, his sticky notes added up to over $300 worth of would-have-been purchases. Seeing it in writing blew his mind. That money was slipping away in silence. He redirected it into paying off debt. That small daily discipline literally started to flip his financial situation. Self-control isn't about saying no to everything. It's about practicing enough restraint in the small moments that you give yourself room for the big wins later. And when you stack those daily acts of discipline, poverty has a really hard time sticking to you because you're always one step ahead of your impulses.
10. The daily habit of writing down one financial goal. One of the sneakiest reasons people stay stuck is because their financial goals live only in their heads. And here's the problem with that. Your brain is noisy. Every day you're juggling work stress, family stuff, random distractions, and it's easy for your money goals to get buried under the chaos. But when you write a goal down every single day, even something as simple as, I will save $50 this week, it creates a mental anchor. It's like drawing a map for your brain. Imagine trying to drive across the country without directions. You'd waste gas, take wrong turns, and maybe never make it. But if you write down your destination every morning, your mind subconsciously steers you toward it throughout the day. You'll notice opportunities you'd normally ignore, and you'll catch yourself before making choices that pull you off course. A friend of mine had this habit. Every morning, before he checked his phone, he'd write on a sticky note, I am debt-free. He wasn't debt-free yet, he was drowning in student loans, but that daily reminder changed his behavior. He started bringing lunch from home instead of eating out. He said no to random weekend splurges. 2 years later, he'd crushed $30,000 of debt. It all started with a daily scribble on paper. Writing goals sounds boring, but it's like installing software in your brain. It programs you to act differently, and when your actions shift, so does your bank balance. 11. The daily upgrade of your skills. Here's a harsh truth. Money doesn't flow to neediness, it flows to value. If you're not upgrading your skills daily, you're locking yourself into the same earning potential year after year. That's why so many people stay broke. They show up to the same job with the same skills and wonder why their paycheck doesn't grow. Meanwhile, the people who build wealth treat skill building like brushing their teeth. It's non-negotiable. And here's the kicker. Upgrading your skills doesn't have to mean going back to school or paying thousands for a course. It can be as simple as watching a tutorial for 20 minutes, practicing a new software tool, or even learning how to negotiate better. One of my friends used to be a cashier making minimum wage. Every night, instead of just watching TV, he'd spend 30 minutes learning graphic design online. Within a year, he was freelancing on the side. Within 2 years, he quit the cashier job entirely and was making triple his old salary. That didn't happen because of luck. It happened because he stacked tiny daily skill upgrades until they added up to a whole new career. Think of skills like tools in a toolbox. If all you have is a hammer, you're limited in what jobs you can do. But if you add a screwdriver today, a wrench tomorrow, a drill next week, suddenly you can take on way more projects. Money works the same way. Each new skill expands your earning potential. And the best part? Skills compound. What you learn today often makes tomorrow's learning even faster. That's why the people who commit to daily upgrades almost never stay poor. They literally outgrow poverty by making themselves too valuable to ignore. 12. The daily habit of acting before you feel ready. This last one is big, and honestly, it's the difference between staying stuck and breaking free. Most people wait until they feel ready before taking action. They wait until they've read 10 books before investing, until they've saved $10,000 before starting a side hustle, until they've lost weight before joining a gym. That waiting game is a trap, because you'll never actually feel ready. There will always be a reason to delay. And that's exactly how poverty keeps its grip, through hesitation. Rich people, or even people on their way to becoming rich, build the daily habit of acting before they feel ready. They put $50 into an index fund even if they don't understand everything yet. They make that first cold call for their side hustle even if their pitch is shaky. They ask for a raise even if they're nervous. The action comes first, the confidence comes later. I'll give you a real-world story. I once knew a guy who wanted to start a YouTube channel. He kept saying, "I'll launch once I get the perfect camera, the perfect lighting, and the perfect script." 2 years passed, still no channel. Meanwhile, another guy launched with nothing but a phone and a desk lamp. His first videos were awkward, but he kept uploading. Fast forward 3 years, the second guy has hundreds of thousands of subscribers and a business around it. The first guy is still waiting to feel ready. That's the poverty trap in action. Here's the thing, doing something daily, even if it's messy, creates momentum. And momentum is impossible to stop once it builds. If you commit to acting before you're ready every single day, poverty doesn't stand a chance. Because while everyone else is still waiting for perfect timing, you're already miles ahead, learning, adjusting, and stacking wins. All right, let's pull this all together. If you've been with me this far, you already know. Staying poor isn't about bad luck or not being smart enough. It's about what you choose to do every single day. The tiny things, the stuff that feels too small to matter in the moment. We talked about building awareness with your money, feeding your brain with daily financial education, practicing gratitude and long-term thinking. We went over tracking small wins, connecting with your future self, protecting your energy. Then we got into transforming boredom into opportunity, planting daily networking seeds, and exercising self-control in those little decisions. And finally, writing down goals, upgrading your skills, and acting before you feel ready. Taken alone, any one of these might seem, well, simple. But that's the trick. Simple stacked daily becomes unstoppable. If you even commit to 3 or 4 of these every day, you'll notice something wild. Money starts sticking to you. You stop leaking it on autopilot. You feel in control. And over time, it becomes almost impossible to stay poor because your habits are literally building a richer version of you day by day. So here's my challenge. Pick one of these habits and start today. Not tomorrow, not someday, but today. Write down your financial goal, or skip that impulse buy, or send that one networking message. Do it messy, do it imperfect, but just do it. And if this video hit you, if you felt like it was made for you, then make sure you stick around. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and maybe even share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because trust me, when you build these habits daily, it's not just about money. It's about freedom, peace of mind, and the kind of life you actually want to live. All right, I'll see you in the next one.